tee a fan of the book off. If so, let's not do it.
But no matter what you do, you're going to piss some fans off.
Yeah.
I think I learned that really well on Supernatural because it has a serious fan base.
Yeah.
They're really passionate about the show, which is
Why
amazing.
haven't the brothers kissed yet? Relax!
They have the right to ask that question.
Yes,
like, I'm not engaging, you know? I don't know, that's how I treat Twitter. I have kind of rules of engagement, and they do change over time, but I love to tweet like, thanks for watching.
Yeah, I do that too.
To say, yes, you'll see her on the show again. If, you know, like a lot of people, Marley Matlin was recently on our show, and I was stoked to be able to answer people's tweets and say she was coming back. But when people tweet at me to explain plot points, or something.
In 140 characters.
Like explain something that maybe my bad, maybe wasn't even clear in the show, or to defend a choice that we made. I just don't think tweeting directly with a fan is the way to address that.
No, I've done that. It's and you're right. It's bad. And some of the fans are like, you know, my New Year's resolution was if I do interact on Twitter, I'm always going to take the high road. The fact that I had to make that resolution tells me what things were like pre-2017. But it's hard. You know, sometimes it's like, oh, I've got the wittiest response ever.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Be nice. You know.
Well, one of the inherent tensions is that as a fan, you love these characters and you root for them, so you want them to do well.
Yeah.
So people are always saying to us, like, I really wish Rebecca would get her act together and just, you know, find a healthy way of living. The show would be over though.
Thank you.
She's crazy.
I know there's some
Show would
journalists.
be over. So, but I understand and I kind of love and I love that people care enough about these characters to want them to get their life on the straight and narrow. It's just that it would be boring if they didn't have any problems. But I actually have come to appreciate, like, it means they care about a character if they want them to get their shit together.
I know I see some journalists in attendance. Can you guys please put that in your articles? Seriously, like, if I get pitched on Twitter, one more, can Oliver and Felicity get married, have babies, and go to Bed Bath & Beyond? like, that's not a good episode.
Hashtag all listening, right?
Bed Bath & Beyond, that's gonna be a boring.
So journalists, Mark wants to make sure you get down. We think the fans are stupid and we don't like their ideas.
Like, it's not enough.
I don't know, it seems like it could work. Will Slice of Life get a Duplass to direct it?
Actually, every time I get tweeted that, I'm like, did Todd Pitzer, our line producer, put you up to this? Because that'd be a really easy episode to produce. I think Todd's like, they're tweeting like, they just sit around and have coffee.
Well, is the toughest thing to kill off a character, though? I mean, because that's where...
That's fun.
That's where the fans will not be happy. Although for some of your shows, you know, you're working in supernatural environments where you could conceivably bring them back. You know, Mark, you're doing that right now, actually. So you know, talk a little bit about that. And you know, do characters ever really die these days, or how do you determine how to kill off a character and not piss off the fans?
Well, there's a great argument to be made that I'm the wrong person to be asking. You know, I mean, look, it's funny, like when we killed off Katie Cassie's character, Laurel, you know, last year, and I will say, the hardest part about killing off a character is you are basically firing someone from their job. So, forget about the fans for a second, the hardest thing, bar none, is having that conversation.
Yeah.
And actually, it's funny, when we had that conversation with Katie, we said, you know, first of all, like, the show does flashbacks, it's a big universe, there's time travel, there's alternate realities, and Katie's coming back as a series regular in season 6.
Yeah.
You know, we weren't shining her on back when we had that conversation a year ago. It was true. You know, not every show obviously can do that. You know, I don't think Crazy Ex-Girlfriend can bring back anybody.
Well, we had somebody leave.
I mean, kill them and bring
We didn't kill him, but we had him leave, and a lot of people who were fans of him and his relationship were upset about it.
It's like what they wanted. It's exactly like he left because he was kind of living a better life. And it's
Right, and he
exactly
had achieved a good thing. And you know, a lot of the fans said, look, if you like this character, he actually was the first person. And our show is sort of, West Covina is like a purgatory. And so,
Oh my god, I understand the whole show.
yeah. But the comedy of the show is that someone would go to choose to live in purgatory. And so the idea is that one by one, people are going to kind of get their shit together and figure out how to get out. And it just so happened that Greg, somewhat ironically, considering that he was one of the ones who seemed the most screwed up, managed to figure out, partly because he was so pushed and irritated by his relationship with her, she forced him to bottom out earlier than he might ever. He might have been like his dad and never bottomed out until he was in his 60s, so he bottomed out early because of their relationship with her. And one of the dynamics of the show is she comes in and kind of conversely, snips other people's anvils that are tying them to the bottom of the ocean as she's tumbling herself and unable to do that for herself. So it was actually, for us, very satisfying to show that she could have this effect and that people can get out of West Covina. And that's why we literally have him go up on an escalator and disappear into the light of the heaven.
Is that
It's actually
Pomona?
quite hard to do.
Would that be Pomona?
It was actually quite hard to do so that it didn't look like really like he was disappearing into smoke. Yeah, it was actually hard to do so it just looked like someone, moving on to a better place.
Aline, one of my favorite things is
Yeah.
you tweeted recently one of the city council members of West
Oh, yeah.
Covina. They were so excited because apparently there's a brand new West Covina Auto Mall sign that they're putting up off the town.
I always retweet stuff from West Covina because it's great. So the place that we have our main kind of bar set is based on a real place that's called from landfill to landmark is their slogan, because it's called Big League Dreams. It's a baseball place that's what we based our bar on is a place called Big League Dreams, and they built it on a landfill in West Covina. It's actually filled in toxic dump. And on top of that, they build a giant, so that to me says, I'm from New Jersey, so that really speaks to me. And so that became our home base, the thing that we call home base.
You have no accent.
I can do it. Trust me, I can totally do it if I need to. Yeah.
Well, Raphael, I wanted to jump in real quick again talking about killing characters because, you did something. Granted, she was a sort of secondary character in season 3, but,
We've killed a few characters.
Yeah. But talk about, the ability to go a little dark, obviously the whole concept of BoJack and what he's struggling with is pretty dark, but yet you've littered your show with so much comedy and so much reference that you're able to get away with it. How do you balance that?
Yeah, the pitch on the first season when we went into Netflix was it's going to start like a wacky, goofy cartoon like you think you know what it is, and then gradually over the course of the season it's going to get darker and darker, kind of like boiling a frog. And you get to the end of the season and you go, oh my god, I'm feeling things, how did that happen? They tricked me. That was kind of the pitch on the trick of the first season at least, and that's we kept going from there, just going darker and darker. But in the very first episode of the show, we have a throwaway joke where a penguin who works at Penguin Publishing is so distraught that the publishing industry is dying that he jumps out off a building and you see him fly by a window and screaming. It's played for comedy. And then at the end of the first season, we have a suicide, which is played for a stark drama. And that's kind of the journey of our show in that season, is to go from yes, we're going to kill people and it's going to be funny and we're not going to give a shit about them, and then we're going to kill people and it's going to be heavy and you're going to feel. Because we can, and we have that power. And isn't that weird? That penguin that you saw for a split second in episode 1, he had a family and he had a life, and we don't think about that. We just think, oh, he did the Wilhelm scream, that's cute. So yeah, that's kind of the fun of it, is to see how much we can make people care. And that sounds manipulative, make people care, because we care too, the writers. We care deeply about these characters in this world. And one thing we found is that kind of the goofier and sillier we go, the darker we can go. And that it's not like we have to meet in the middle, but actually, you get that chocolate and that peanut butter together and it tastes pretty good.
Well, you guys challenged yourselves, obviously, last season with the film festival episode with virtually no dialogue in the entire episode. That's the one that I think people ask you about. Yeah, shout out to.
Yes, you may clap for me. Shout yourself.
Talk about challenging yourself and sort of how that started out as.
Yeah, I think one thing that I would assume everyone up here feels is that you do want to keep it fresh and keep moving forward. And I think that's part of the we were talking earlier, what is the challenge of being a showrunner, and that I think in some ways it gets harder every year because you don't want to get comfortable. You don't want to feel like, okay, I know this show, I know this gig, piece of cake. You want to kind of surprise yourself as much as you're surprising the audience. So every season, we talk about what are different kinds of things we can do. What would be a scary thing for us? And then, we kind of put some scary ideas on the wall, then it kind of almost feels cowardly to not try that. It's like, now that I know that's possible, like, why are we doing this other bullshit? Like, I want to see if we can do that. And so that kind of was the beginning of it. And also, I think, at BoJack, we're very much interested in format, and that's something that I've always been interested in. I come from a sketch comedy background, as Jonah does as well. And that you get a lot of ideas from like, well, let's do a movie parody, or let's do a parody of this kind of thing, or how do we do a sketch that fits this rubric and this framework? And so kind of just start from a place like, all right, I want to do an episode that's just about these two characters talking to each other. What would that story be? Or I want to do this episode that's from this character's perspective. Or I want to do an episode that has no dialogue. Like that's kind of the beginning of it, and you kind of find the story to justify that. I think a lot of people are like, oh no, the form has to fit the content. And I'm like, no, come up with the form first, and like shove some content in there. That's kind of my strategy.
Well, Sera, you challenged yourself to add more music and finally do a whole musical number, a Les Mis number this season.
Right.
You're kind of working your way up to that, but talk about that and kind of almost the challenge that you put yourself in and creating that.
One of my challenges is I don't really like musicals. But I do The Magicians with
Except for, of
John
course.
McNamara.
Yeah.
I do. I watch your show and I love it. But I don't know. It's feminist.
I don't
whatever. I'm picky.
Got really awkward really
thinking about
fast.
the musicals I like too.
Yeah, I mean, I could name 5 or 10 that I love.
Yeah.
But if you said, let's go get season tickets, I'd be like, no, thank you.
Right.
Let's do something else.
I'm the same way.
But John McNamara, my partner on The Magicians, is a huge musical theater fan. In season 1, we had this plot point that was about the fact that a psychic could hear this earworm that was going on in our main character's head. He was singing Taylor Swift to himself over and over again. So then the next episode, he needs help, and this is his distress call. So it wasn't like, let's do a musical number. It was like, well, if he needs to reach the psychic who hates it when he sings Taylor Swift in his head, he should sing Taylor Swift in his head, right? That was relatively small. I mean, from a production standpoint, it was one singer, it was very loose, it was in an insane asylum, literally. And then because it went so well, John got excited and just started looking for excuses.
Yeah.
And there's reasons in the script if that ever happens, but it is an indulgence because we're a show where people can do magic. And where there's a justification for just such a wide spectrum of tones within an episode. So this was like our first cast of hundreds, all costumes that we built, choreography, 12 hours of pre-recording, which is a word I didn't even know until this year. And I love it because it's completely new for me, and I understand the power of it. People got really excited, and the excitement of the fans is contagious for me. So that's my back door into it.
I love musicals. I think if we have a season 3 of The Path, we should.
That's a
Great call.
The Myers musical. So.